Hello guys, so today we got patch notes for the next Age of Empires 4 update. Currently it is available to play on public update preview, so if you want you can just try to play them right now. And here I just want to look at the changes and talk about them. Let me just open the patch notes. Oh, okay, first of all I just want to highlight what are some of the biggest changes. First of all, we got new functionality in the game. Now it's possible to pause the game during multiplayer matches. If you're playing 1 versus 1, you get about 5 pauses, and I think the first pause gives you 30 seconds guaranteed game stop, which is very good because, sometimes you just need to open the door or you have some emergency. If your opponent allows you to wait, then allows you to step away, then you can play the game as normal. I think it's very good. We have also siege rework. We have some adjustments for economic and military upgrades, especially Universtiy ones. And we have some minor balance changes, and also we have Ottoman rework. And now I just want to take a look at these patch notes, and I will talk about them, just my thoughts and how I think it will affect the gameplay. Alright, I just need to open another window. Yes, so multiplayer pause, already talked about it. It's very good, and I hope they also continue to add this functionality, maybe for replays, maybe also for, reconnect. For example, if your internet connection just fails, or if your game closes, it should be possible to reconnect, right? Like it's possible in other games. So hopefully they will also add this. We have some 2 new maps, Atacama and Lakeside. I don't know too much about these maps. I guess we'll need to see them in the game. Okay, but the first one looks like some kind of the desert map, so maybe there is not a lot of food, maybe there is not a lot of wood. It can be something like prairie, but on prairie there is a lot of sheep. Maybe on this map there is not a lot of sheep. Second is Lakeside, Cradle of a Mountainous Region. It sounds interesting, but I'm worried that it will be just like Altai. Okay, I guess we'll see. Balance and gameplay. Alright, there is a lot of bug fixes. English trebuchet bug fix, Byzantine aqueducts bug fix. So these are all pretty minor bugs. I personally haven't noticed them in the game, but it's good that they got fixed. Okay, projectiles updated. I think it only affects animations. More natural trajectories. Arrows no longer teleport to find the target on the final frame. Yeah, so this is purely quality of life changes. Of course, it's very good because now it's easier to see where the arrow flies. Personally, I'm concerned about, balance changes, gameplay changes. I don't think this will affect the gameplay very much, but still, it's nice to have. Post-game graphs, this is good. Now we can also look at total food, total wood, total gold gathered. So this is not only how much resources you had at each moment, but it also shows you how much resources you collected at each specific moment in total. And this is an extremely good tool for tracking your economy development. Some websites already have it, like Age of Empires 4 World. Well, I'm not actually sure it has this graph, but anyway, this is something that Age of Mythology has, and it's very useful there, and I'm glad that they decided to add this to Age of Empires 4. Multiplayer pause, yeah, already talked about this. Okay, siege gameplay. So here developers say that their goal was to make siege battles maybe slower and make them effective tools to counter units. So essentially they are taking away this siege versus siege functionality. And I have talked about this in my siege rework video. And in general, the changes they made here, I feel they are pretty aligned to what I have been saying and to what other players and top players have been saying. So it's very good to see that developers are actually listening to our feedback. So thank you, developers. Now let's see the changes. First of all, Springles, they decided to leave them in the game, but now Springles are anti-melee infantry role, and they get the special projectiles that pierce the target, and they no longer track the targets. So this is like Mangonel, or maybe a little bit like Rework Queen, but a more ranged option and for, what should I say, AoE damage, right? So Mangonels you use to counter ranged units, and Springles you will be able to use them to counter melee infantry. Let's see the specific changes. Also, Culverins, they made Culverins essentially into a bombard. Now there are some civilizations, for example Ottomans, instead of bombard they get Great Bombard, and some civilizations now instead of bombards will get Culverins. And they also changed how armor works on the siege engines. And the reason they did it, because before it was very difficult to snipe siege engines with your ranged units. For example, if you had a mangonel and your opponent had 30 crossbows, there was no way he would be able to break your mangonel with 30 crossbows. And now it will be possible, because now this armor reduces damage not by some fixed amount, but it reduces it as a percentage. It means that, for example, mangonels here have 75% range damage reduction. It means that if a crossbow does, let's say, 14 damage, now it will get reduced instead of dealing 1 damage, like it is right now with current armor system. If this gets reduced by 75%, now crossbows will deal at least 3 damage or 4 damage to mangonels, which I think is very good, because it makes it impossible to win when you play 2 mangonels against mass ranged units. So mangonels, they will still be viable, still can be very good against ranged units, but not on their own. Now there will be situational siege units that need some support. Okay, so this is armor changes. Rams and siege towers are still pretty much impenetrable by ranged units, because 95% is a lot. Yeah, and Rework Queen's easiest to snipe. Alright, also they changed bombards. They reduced HP a little bit, and they reduced base damage, but have given bombers bonus damage against infantry. And it's interesting because I also talked about it in my video. The reason they did this is because you want to slow down bombards and slow down siege engines when they break keeps and break fortifications. Because right now, if you want to defend yourself from enemy keeps, you just go Springles, right? Maybe you cannot save your keep by repairing it, or you cannot buy enough time, but you can go Springles, you can force your opponent to go back to make his own Springles, and then what happens is by going Springles you just slow the game down. But here you can see, if we remove Springles, now bombards cannot be broken, or at least easily broken by Springles. You need to reduce bombard damage against buildings, and here we can see it's reduced in half. But also bombards have the same efficiency against infantry, so they're not completely useless if there is nothing to break. I think it's a good change, because it is unavoidable. If you want to nerf Springles, you need to change bombers like this. Culverins, okay, so Culverins are reduced cost, and they're going to be cheaper than bombers, I think. They're going to be about the same HP, about the same armor, base damage reduced, and bonus damage against the buildings and ships. Oh, I get it. Okay, so it's just like Bombard, but a little bit cheaper version. They also reduce the range. Yeah, okay, so Culverins probably are going to be like Bombards, but a little bit cheaper and a little bit greater range. Yeah, it's going to be a slightly different unit. Still not a big deal, lower damage but higher range and cheaper cost. Is going to be a slightly better maybe alternative to Bombard. Not necessarily better, right, because Bombard is still going to be better damage-wise. They're just going to be similar but a bit different units. Okay, Cannons is a French and Jeanne of Arc Bombard. It also gets the same 85% range resistance. It gets slightly higher damage. So this is just a better Bombard. Okay, and Great Bombard, it's interesting. They reduce health by 50 points, which is not a big difference. They greatly reduce base damage, but also they give, to compensate, they increase bonus damage versus infantry. I'm not sure this is a good change, because it makes the Great Bombard less efficient against buildings, but also it makes it more efficient against infantry, and the Great Bombard will still be able to kill a lot of infantry units, I think they might need to change Great Bombard, because if you have no Springles, then Great Bombards, they will be able to dominate infantry units. Okay, maybe if you play Cavalry, then it's going to be difficult, because it's only 70 damage, but Ottomans have Janissaries, and Janissaries still are very efficient against Cavalry. We'll get to this part, but in my opinion, Great Bombard could be nerfed. I mean, this bonus against infantry could be nerfed. Okay, next we have sprinkled adjustments. It's now much cheaper. Instead of 500 resources total, it's only 250. Reduced HP, reduced melee armor, and reduced damage. So these are a bunch of changes. Basically what happens now is Sprinkle becomes a cheap unit with 2 population that specializes on countering melee infantry. And it also shoots bolts that pierce multiple units. And no longer these bolts just are homing projectiles. So they do not track your units. They just fire in a spot, and if some units happens to be there, it hits. If no units happen to be there, then it misses. And Sprinkles become a little bit more like mangonels. I feel they will be more difficult to dodge, because sprinkled projectile is much faster. But still, it's more skill dependent, because now it depends on you as attacker with sprinkled to shoot through enemy formation. It depends on your opponent to try to kite your bolts or maybe spread out forces. So I think it's a good change. We'll have to see how oppressive and how good sprinkleds are. If this is just a situational unit, I think it's fine. Also, let's just check it. Okay, base damage reduced to 15. I assume that the bonus against siege is also removed. At least I hope that bonus against siege is removed, because it will make no sense if they still get bonus against mangonels. Okay, and Roller Shadow triggers technology no longer provides additional range, but only provides 25 attack speed. It's also very good, because in late game, at least right now, if you age up and you get this upgrade and your opponent doesn't have this upgrade, you just win every siege fight. Of course, hopefully we will have no sprinkled wars in the new patch, but still, I think this upgrade for additional range was too oppressive. 25% attack speed is more than fine. Trebuchet adjustments. Okay, so they did not actually do anything, they just reduced population cost and reduced health. I'm not sure how I feel about this. I think trebuchets after this change might become a little bit too oppressive, because the bombard is still 3 population cost, and now its damage reduced by half. But trebuchet, they still do the same damage, and they're more population efficient, and they can shoot from safer distance. I think people will stop going bombers right now, because bombers are going to be pretty weak against anything that's not a keep or a building, and against buildings it's better to go trebuchets. Yeah, and same changes for Mongol trebuchet. Hui Hui Pao, okay, they didn't change Hui Hui Pao at all. Next, interesting mangonel adjustments. First of all, armor upgrade, I mean rework. Now it's possible to snipe mangonels with the ranged units. It's not easy, but it's possible, which is very good. Also, they increase bonus damage versus range and increase bonus damage versus buildings, so the shots are going to hurt more. They reduce the range to 8, which I think is very good, because it still outranges any ranged unit, but now it's not capable of shooting at enemy bombards or something like this, so it's not too big of a range, right? Also, unit responsiveness, aim time is going to be twice as quick, wind down increased. I think this is good, because mangonels are going to be less clunky to use. And also, most important part, they reduced blast radius. Each boulder blast radius reduced almost by 40%. And this is a huge change, and also projectile spread reduced. Okay, so yeah, and also no longer predicts movement and instead fires directly at the target. This is very good. It's exactly what we have been talking about. What it does is it makes mangonels do more damage, and it will hurt you if you get hit by a mangonel. And it even will be able to snipe maybe individual units or maybe groups of 2 or 3 or 4 units. So it hurts if you get hit by a mangonel. But also now, it will not be as easy to hit with them if your opponent actively tries to dodge you, because the radius is smaller and spread is smaller, and you can just move your units around or use spread formation And if you got, for example, a lot of infantry mass or horseman mass, because this area of effect is smaller, mangonels, they're not going to be able to clear any massive units. And it makes the game more, how should I say, it adds more skill expression. Because now you can manually control your mangonels to shoot at different spots, and your opponent can try to dodge with ranged units. So this is what mangonel gameplay should look like, and I'm really glad they decided to do this change. Of course, we will need to see how it performs. Maybe it's too weak, maybe it's too strong. If it's too strong, then it's not good, because we don't have sprinkles to stop mangonels anymore. Okay, but let's look at other changes. We also have this change to adjustable crossbars. This is the mangonel upgrade. Currently it only gives you 25% attack speed. Now it's going to be much more expensive, and because now it costs 1000 resources, it's going to cost 2200. So it increases splash radius by 100% and gives one extra projectile instead of bonus attack speed. So essentially it makes it more difficult to dodge mangonel shots. And this can be a very good deal breaker, or I mean a very good tool for finishing games if you're Imperial Age and you have a lot of resources over your opponent. But also I'm afraid this is going to be maybe a little bit too oppressive, right? Because if you give them 100% splash radius, also you give them these changes. Bonus versus range, for example, got increased a little bit. They're still going to be very strong against units. Of course, you no longer get 25% attack speed, but sometimes even one shot is enough. One mangonel shot, if you have 3 mangonels or 4 mangonels, and you just shoot once, especially with this 100% splash radius, I think it can be too oppressive, right? I guess we'll have to see, but I don't really like the idea of you just going Imperial Age and getting this upgrade, because it's expensive, but it's not that expensive, right? And just maybe sitting in your base and going mangonels, and you become impossible to push. Okay, we'll see how it goes. But overall, I want to say that this looks better. Personally, I would want to see mangonels as a bit more anti-range unit, a little bit more specialized. Maybe instead of splash radius, it could be something against range units. Maybe after getting hit by mangonel, range units get some damage debuff, or they cannot shoot. I think this could be more interesting, but this kind of design also makes sense. Nest of Beasts is essentially a Chinese equivalent of mangonel. It gets similar changes, I presume. It gets reduced range. Oh, okay, so Nest of Beasts gets no changes. I really don't like it. I think they should change Nest of Beasts, because if no changes affected, it's going to be very strong. Additional barrels, yeah, okay, they make this technology a little bit more expensive, but also stronger. Again, I'm not a fan of this change. Rebolda Queen is a reduced HP, and the range resistance is rework, and also they increase melee armor. Overall, Rebolda Queen should be a little bit stronger, but also more vulnerable. Not sure how I feel about this change. For sure, people will start using Rebolda Queen, but maybe if range units stay strong, Rebolda Queens will be easy to snipe. But I know that if I play Rebolda Queen Civilizations, I'll try to use it. A Ram and Siege Tower, 95%, yeah, they're just going to be unkillable by ranged units. University update. So they tried to rework a lot of technologies in University. Let's read about it. First of all, incendiary arrows. This is a big change. Yeah, you will see that almost all upgrades, they now cost about 1500 resources instead of 1000 as it is right now. And incendiary arrows is the first big change. Now flaming arrows can actually ignite buildings. Not ignite, but break buildings. And it makes sense stylistically, but also I think it can be very strong. Archetype units deal 3 siege damage when firing on a building, and this is already broken, and people found it out on public update preview. For example, with English you can go longbows or you can go Wingard Rangers. You just build stone walls and you can get this upgrade and you break anything. You can break enemy siege engines because of how range armor on siege now works. You can break bombards, you can break mangonels, and you also can break buildings if you get this upgrade. So, not really a fan of this change. I guess maybe it could be okay if you remove longbows or if you nerf Vanguard Rangers, but currently it just doesn't work because there is no way to stop a big longbow mess because they break siege and they break buildings. Oh, but maybe other archer units are okay. I'm not sure about this. I guess we'll have to see. Second, yeah, also crossbowmen. We'll talk about crossbowmen a bit later. Actually, let's talk about crossbowmen right now. So, I'm not really a fan of how range units work in the game currently, because crossbows are your multi-purpose unit. In most situations, you just play crossbows because crossbows can defend your base, they can win fights, and the only real thing you cannot do with crossbows, and the only reason why people don't just play crossbows every game and don't mess them in all situations, is because you cannot use crossbows for breaking buildings and you cannot use them for pushing. But if you remove or if you weaken mangonels, and if you give crossbows ability to deal siege damage against buildings, then suddenly you can just play 50 crossbows and break buildings, and there will be not a good way to stop these crossbows. So this is a problem for sure. I will also talk about it a little bit later, but we have seen this problem already with Vanguard Rangers. So this upgrade probably a little bit broken right now. Notable exceptions, so Tower Elephants do not get this upgrade and Juginu get a weaker version. Okay, so this is just exceptions. Biology is now a little bit stronger. It's more expensive, but also it increases your cavalry HP a little bit more. And French biology is almost the same as it was, but now it's 40% and now it's cheaper. I mean, it's exactly as cheap as the current biology before patch. So this is not a big change, but your horse units are going to be a bit tankier. I think it's always good. Chemistry now doesn't increase your hand cannoneer damage. So what developers try to do here is they try to make hand cannoneer not this multi-purpose unit that you can go against any army composition. They try to make hand cannoneers more specialized. And instead, chemistry now, it just increases your gunpowder siege engine damage. Because bombards and cavalries, they get, especially bombards, right? They get 50% decreased damage against buildings. And now we get this 25% bonus damage. It somewhat offsets this nerf, so bombards are going to be a little bit stronger after this upgrade. But also, what it does, it allows bombers to clear enemy infantry more efficiently, because bombers get plus 50 damage against infantry. And if this 25% affect this bonus 50 damage, then we can see people going bombers to just kill infantry and break buildings. Okay, Elite Army Tactics is it's much more expensive, right? It's 1,600. And instead of 20% health and 20% damage, it now also gives 20% base damage. I'm not sure if there is any difference between damage and base damage, but I'll assume they're the same. But instead of 20% health, it gives you 4 melee armor. Alright, so I'm not sure I like this change, because what it means is that crossbows are going to be even more broken. Even now, if you go crossbows and your opponent goes infantry crossbows, it's easy for them to clear your infantry, right? It's very effective. But if you remove this 20% health, then your man-at-arms, they will not last against crossbows at all. But what it does is melee infantry becomes stronger against what? Against horsemen, right? Because horsemen have low base damage, and this 4 melee armor, it affects fights against horsemen. Your infantry becomes stronger against other infantry because of this 4 armor. Yeah, and I think that's it, because knights don't really care about it. In conclusion, you get this upgrade if you want to go melee infantry, if you want to fight enemy horsemen, or if you want to fight enemy infantry. But going infantry against infantry makes no sense unless you're playing Japanese or Holy Roman Empire, and horsemen will not usually engage you, so I'm not sure I like the idea behind this upgrade. But I will say that I like that they maybe nerfed it, because 20% health and 20% damage was a little bit too strong, in my opinion. Okay, and for Japanese, they increase touch damage. Yeah, it's just like it was before. Siegeborgs is now not increasing your ranged armor for your siege engines. Makes sense because they removed ranged armor. Instead, they now reduce percentage of damage. Serpentine powder. It's a new technology. It costs 800, so not very expensive, and the research time is just 1 minute. And it allows your hand cannons to be more effective against melee infantry. And also it gives them bonus movement speed. Yeah, so what it does is, instead of getting chemistry when you're going for hand cannons, now you get this upgrade, which is a little bit cheaper, and your hand cannons become a very good anti-infantry unit. They become a more specialized unit. Maybe your hand cannons are not as good against horsemen or against other range units, but against melee infantry they will be absolutely amazing, because they deal this +8 bonus damage, which is the same as it is, or about the same as it is right now with chemistry, but also they can run away by using their movement speed. And I feel it's going to be an interesting ability, and it's a little bit of a buff to hand cannons in this specific situation. But also it nerfs hand cannons in all other situations, because now they're not as good against everything else. And also we get new technology, silk bowstrings, also not very expensive, 800. It increases your archer range, and it gives you your mount archer +1 range, alright. It also benefits your longbows, I think, and your winged rangers, and I feel like this should not be possible for English, because English longbows and winged rangers, they already get a lot of range. But overall, I think this technology is not bad. I think it gives your archers more usability in late game, and it's very good because now archers in late game are severely just underutilized. You cannot use them properly. I really like this change, but I hope that they remove it from English. Alright, and also we get some changes for economic upgrade. Now farming upgrade, all of them are 10% instead of 15%. It's a nerf to old civilizations that like to camp in their base, like English, maybe HRE, maybe Byzantines. It makes such a playstyle more difficult, and also it makes it difficult to hoard a lot of food, because in late game, as most civilizations, you will get a lot of excess food, and this is why these technologies get nerfed. Also, alright, a little bit of a boar food increase. Not sure it's very significant, but still it's fine. A little bit of a nerf to fishing technologies, which is very good. Okay, berry bonus reduced, not a big change. New icons, that's a quality of life. Torch damage increased, so this essentially is a set of changes to promote more aggressive gameplay and to nerf turtling a little bit, right? It should become more difficult to turtle, because now torch damage is a little bit stronger, and palisade build time increased by 2 times essentially. It's harder now to make a lot of palisades. And horseman attack bonus versus siege. Okay, this is quality of life slash more aggression favoring changes. I'm not sure it's enough. I'm not sure it will change anything, but it should be a little bit easier to be aggressive right now, in my opinion. And especially this change. Now it's more difficult to justify early farms. Okay, also we get some civilization changes. Chinese. This is a Nest of Beast change, already saw it. Grenadier attack more responsive, probably quality of life. Right now Grenadiers, they just feel too clunky to use, because they take a lot of time to attack with. Here essentially now they're going to aim faster and they're going to just reload slower. It should be easier to kite with them, to shoot and scoot, but I don't think it will change anything. The unit itself is just not very good. Daily Sultanate. Okay, so your ships, when they kill enemy ships, they get extra HP. I mean, it's nice, but it's not important, right? It's probably not going to change much because water gameplay is already a little bit of a mess, and probably I should make a video about this, but I don't think that anything will change. We'll play water exactly the same as we do now. French docks provide templation space. Interesting, but I don't really see the point. Holy Roman Empire. Okay, this is interesting, because Holy Roman Empire is right now one of the most broken civilizations in the game, and it needs some adjustments. Let's see what they did. First of all, Mainwork Palace, they replaced Riveted Chain with another technology, which gives you +3 damage to Spearmen and Horsemen. I want to say I really like it, because it will allow your Spearmen and Horsemen to be more aggressive in Feudal Age. For example, instead of going Mad Arms, it will be possible to just go Spear, Horseman, and even kill enemy Mad Arms. If your opponent tries to go Castle Age, you will still be able to fight him. I really like this change. Garrison Relic, a little bit of a nerf. Now towers and keeps with relics will not be as strong. And reinforced defenses reduced. Okay, so another good change. Reinforced defenses is a unique Holy Roman Empire technology for building HP. Now it's nerfed. Emplacement discount reduced a little bit from 25 to 20. Not a big change. And Town Center range time reduced and Aachen Chapel range reduced. Out of these changes, they are all pretty small, right? But in combination, maybe it weakens Holy Roman Empire a little bit. But I'm not sure it changes anything, right? Because Aachen Chapel range reduced from 7.5 to 6.5. Okay, so this means you will get 10 less farms maybe under your Aachen Chapel, but you can just go one extra prelate to boost your farms, so it's not really a big deal, right? Town center range time. Usually you lose the game way before enemy Aachen Chapel is full of farms. Usually against HRE you lose the game when you just allow him to transition to some farms. At least this is when situation gets out of control. And of course your relics inside towers, they become weaker and your buildings become weaker, but I don't think it's enough. Because the main problem with HRE is that it's extremely easy with them to just go and play very aggressively and at the same time have amazing and safe economy at home. I don't feel that these problems are being solved. These are good changes, they're in the right direction, but I just don't think it's enough. Okay, so Japanese. Yeah, this is just a change to reduce farming rate, because now we have a nerf on these technologies for farming from 15 to 10%. It's just to bring them in line with other civilizations. So nothing really changed, but probably this is a nerf to Japanese. Probably they try to promote more active playstyle, and if you want to play Japanese, it looks like your best bet right now is to just go for berries and for deer collection, but essentially for berries, because your berry technology is insane. Jet of Arc, okay, and they move companion riders to the stable, companion champion to the barracks. So these are unique Joan of Arc units that now you can get from keeps, but after the change you will be able to get them just like regular units. And yeah, I think it's a really good change. They needed to do this because building keeps in this game to make units, well, it's not Age of Mythology, right? It's another game. Here you make horse units out of stables and etc. I think it's a good change. Yeah, and also you don't have to go for a keep as Joan of Arc right now, because French have a good synergy with keeps, but Joan of Arc maybe doesn't need to have a good synergy with keeps. And also, if you want to go these companion units, you would need to use your Joan of Arc ability on a keep, but now you can just use it on a stable or on barracks and produce your units out of there. I really like this change, but I don't think it will change anything. And okay, no much changes. Yeah. So essentially Joan of Arc just stayed the same with some quality of life changes. Malians. Now for Imba, they tried to revive it by giving 3 new units, and essentially this is a little bit better Musafadi, a little bit better Javelin Thrower, and a little bit better... wait, a high Pierce Armor melee unit. I don't understand what the difference is between this one and Musafadi, but okay. I mean, they gave for Imba stronger units, which is good. Because for Imba right now, it needs some love. People just go Fulani Corral with Cow Boom, and it gets really, really monotonous with Malians. Because you know that every game is going to be against the Cow Boom, or if you play Malians, you want to go Cow Boom because it's your strongest option. Personally, I want them to nerf the cows and Cow Boom, but if they just buff for Imba, maybe people will also start to go for this play. Second Trade Network acts as a tall outpost that comes with defensive Javelin emplacement. Alright, we get another emplacement, now it's Javelin emplacement. And it also gives all your towers a defensive Javelin emplacement. Again, I don't think it's like a Red Palace, right? It's like a Red Palace, but I mean, we'll have to see how it goes. I'm not sure it will be enough to change anything, because if you go Sahan Trade Network, you just lose 2 villages, because you could go for Mansa Quarry instead, which would give you 75 gold or stone per minute. But the idea here is that you go for this network and your towers become really strong. And how can you use strong towers? Well, there are 2 strategies. First of all, you can try to tower rush your opponent, but with Malians it's probably impossible, because Malians are the slowest like civilization in Feudal Age. Because it needs to set up pit mines, it needs to set up cows. And second use would be to just start trading and get a lot of outposts, and this outpost will shoot javelins. I don't think it's viable, because your outposts can be easily broken by rams, and outposts are expensive, it's a lot of idle time to get them going. But I mean, it's still a fun option, maybe in some casual games, in team games, maybe it's fun. Order of the Dragon, it's just a bunch of changes that are similar to HRE changes. They just do it so that civilizations are similar. Now relics and defenses are a little bit weaker, but all gilded units, dodge damage is increased. Again, nothing changed. I think Order of the Dragon probably needs some love. Probably it needs some economic boost, just a little bit, you know. Nothing crazy. Okay, so essentially it's all the same. Now interesting is Ottomans, because with Ottomans they decided to change the Imperial Council system a little bit. First of all, I'll talk about Janistry changes. Janistry now deal 5 damage instead of 3 damage from their unique technology, but also they do less damage against cavalry. So it's plus 2 damage with all upgrades in total, but against cavalry it's -4, -5 damage. Overall, I would say they became a bit stronger against most units, but they became a little bit weaker against cavalry, and I don't think it's enough, because they are still going to be insane against cavalry. Just look at this, even extra 12 or 15 damage against cavalry for such a cheap and fast unit. It's not good. Well, maybe not cheap, but they're not very expensive, right? Janissaries. Oh, they get range tech, and I really like this change, because now it means that all the stuff that deals bonus damage to range, like mangonels or horsemen, they're going to be better against Janissaries. So, of course, Janissaries, they shred horsemen, but now horsemen will also be able to shred Janissaries. This is very good. Okay, and this is all for Janissaries. They are just a little bit stronger against infantry, but weaker against cavalry, which is okay. Now let's look at Imperial Council. First of all, they remove fast training, and this is technology that improves your military school production speed, and they probably removed it because it was always good. You always needed to pick it, and instead it goes to Advanced Academy. They also give new unique technologies like extensive fortifications. Okay, so this is a crossbow emplacement, but it's not like a regular crossbow emplacement, right? Because it says all garrison arrows are replaced with crossbow bolts, which means that if you garrison 7 villagers or 8 villagers in a town center, currently they're going to shoot arrows, which are very weak and especially weak against armor units. But now these are going to be crossbow bolts. It's only +2 damage against the heavy units, and I'm not sure what the idea is here, but hopefully it will be able to heavily damage heavy units. And I think it can be very useful if you, for example, go for 2 town centers, and currently if you play Ottomans and you go for 2 town centers, you can just get rushed with mad arms or rushed with knights. But now, for example, if you get Burgrave rushed by HRE with a lot of mad arms, you can just get this upgrade and you can garrison your villages in towers or town centers and just kill mad arms. So maybe it opens you a door for an interesting playstyle, but I don't think it's going to be good, because Ottomans, they still need some economic changes. Their economy right now is just not strong enough, because if HRE sees you're going to play 2 town centers, HRE can just grab relics and go Swabia, for example. Timor riots, okay, cavalry archers. This is interesting because I heard people said that these cavalry archers are broken, they're very strong. I'm not sure how strong they are. We already have Mangodai with Mongols and they are not very good. And it's very tricky with cavalry archers, with horse archers, because if you make them too strong, then people start to just abuse them. If you make them too weak, like Mangodai, that no one's going to use them. We'll see how it goes. I'm not sure I like this change, but maybe it's interesting option to play as Ottomans to try to surprise your opponent. Pax Ottomana is villager production speed increased by 50% for 4 minutes. This is also a good point for playing 2 town centers, because with 1 town center it's only, what, +6 villagers, I think. But if you have 2 town centers, it's +12 villagers, which can be a massive advantage. I still don't like it because economic civilizations with better booming options are going to outboom you. And we also have Great Bombard that arrives at capital town center. Okay, so this is your surprise point, which you get if you're getting pushed or if you want to push your opponent but have no siege. Maybe it's going to be interesting. I think it's just going to be annoying. Okay, trade backs and siege crews moved from tier 2 to tier 4, and they actually added 4 tiers now. And they also reduced knight production speed and janissary production speed, because before they were faster. Okay, so overall, I really like that they try to add more options, that they think of different scenarios, like this, for example, extensive fortifications for crossbows inside buildings. I think it's a cool idea. What I don't like is that they do not fix the core issue with Ottomans. Ottomans are essentially a military school-based civilization. The idea is that you go military schools, you get free units, and you don't get the great economy, but you can constantly apply pressure and get value this way. Instead, what they try to do, they try to give you a lot of options to make Ottomans a very, very adaptive civilization. For example, you want to shoot and scoot, you go cavalry archers. You want to play multiple town centers, or just very defensively, you can go for fortifications and villager production speed. But I don't think that, personally, I don't think it's a correct approach, because this game, it already has a lot of options. You can go different units, you can go trade, you can go town centers, and I just feel that if you have too many options, it can become too chaotic, right? Ottomans just need a solid core mechanic that they can play around, right? If you just give them strongest military, and military schools are overpowered, they're just going to be broken, right? Because we already had this about 1 year ago, when everyone was picking Ottomans because military schools were just way too strong. If you make military schools too slow, then no one will play Ottomans, like it was a few months ago. Actually, I'm not sure. Maybe it's a good idea, we'll have to wait and see how it goes. But personally, I feel that it will not change much, because people will still try to go military schools and get some units. And I don't know, maybe I would change the way how military schools generate units. Because now it's just a steady income of units. Maybe if there were some unit tickets that you could use to instantly purchase military, maybe it could be better. I don't know, okay? But we'll see how it goes. Rus, they just increased Palisade build time to bring it in line with other Palisades. Okay, and Bennett Arms technology ranged effect increased. So Rus stays the same. Jushi Legacy, new technology, cavalry speed 20%. Alright, available in Feudal Age. I'm not sure I like this idea, because I just think that Jushi Knights or Lancers are going to become broken. Yeah, you just go this technology, you rush Castle Age, and you get OP Knights. Actually, maybe it's okay, because Jushi Castle Age right now, it's a very good timing, but it's not particularly strong, because we have a lot of problems with resources. If you get very strong knights, then it's going to solve some of the problems, because you will be able to get more map control and you will be able to get more food. I don't really like it, because it incentivizes this very quick and aggressive Castle Age timing with knights, and I don't think it's an interesting way to play the game, but it's just my personal preference. It will certainly make Jushi more viable. Okay, new technology, hard case bombs. Grenadiers bonus versus light infantry probably will not change anything. But okay, Grenadiers maybe will now be better against Spearmen. So the idea here is that you go Grenadiers to kill Spearmen, and you go Cavalry to kill anything else. Maybe it's going to be an interesting playstyle. Personally, I don't see it right now. Early Grenadier becomes available in Castle Age. Okay, this is interesting. Now you can get this playstyle with Horseman plus Grenadier, or maybe Knight plus Grenadier. You can get it going in Castle Age. Okay, so how would you counter it if you are playing against it? You see Jushi, you see Horseman, and you see Grenadiers. Okay, maybe you just go Horseman. Oh, I just go Knights, right? I go Knights and I go Crossbow. Alright, so this is essentially the same Knight Crossbow, but now instead of Crossbow you can go Grenadier. Okay, so this is all the changes we are getting in this update, I presume. So of course this list is going to change. It's not a final list. They hopefully fix most of the issues, like technology for flaming arrows. Where is it? Yeah, that allows you to just shoot enemy buildings with your Vanguard Rangers and auto-win the game. Okay, now let me talk about what are we getting in general, what I think about these changes. First of all, I think that there is a lot of good improvements that they did. These are quality of life improvements. Post functionality was long overdue. I hope they continue to make more improvements, like maybe better replays, or maybe reconnection feature would be great. Also, Sprinkled Wars, hopefully they will not stay in the game. Hopefully we are not getting like 8 Sprinkles versus 10 Sprinkles anymore. It's a matter of balance, and their new system, it should be easy with this system to balance Sprinkles out, right? A more balanced and skill-dependent siege, yeah, mangonels now can be dodged, but also they cannot always be dodged perfectly, and it increases your APM, and it makes siege just one part of the equation instead of the deciding factor. I think it's very good. University overhaul, yeah, I don't agree with many changes in University overhaul, for example for infantry and for flaming arrows, but overall I think it's a good direction, that they try to diversify gameplay instead of just increasing 20% damage, 20% HP. So I think it's really good, and especially what they did with hand cannoneers. Neutral, I would say that slightly nerfed booming. It forces you maybe to go out on the map a little bit more, and it incentivizes more raids. I'm not against it, right? I think these changes are okay. It's a slight nerf to booming civilizations, to defensive playstyles, but I also think it's very easy to overdo it, and once you overdo it, you just get a lot of Onobugeisha and horsemen running everywhere and raiding your base, and the game can become very hectic, so I think we should be careful about this. And also, Ottoman redesign. I'm not sure, I just cannot put my finger on it, but I don't think it's going to fix the core issue with Ottomans, because the core issue right now is that they're not powerful enough, right? With civilizations like maybe Rus, maybe even French, right? You have your good economy, you have your strong units, and you already are flexible enough, right? And you know that whatever happens, Rus is going to have some bounty, is going to have 20% wood collection, is going to be strong. But also it can adjust by building different units and playing different strategies. With Ottomans, they do not have a strong engine, right? Because military schools in H2, even H3, are not good enough to carry Ottomans. And it's like the developers, they try to, okay, let's give Ottomans more options. Let's leave their core as it is with military schools. But also let's give them some options in Imperial Council and allow them to make emplacements and maybe horse archers. I just don't think it's going to be enough, because these options are good, they're interesting, but they do not solve the problem that Ottomans are just not powerful enough. So maybe these changes are not needed, or maybe military schools need to be redesigned in some way. I'm not sure how exactly, but now the design is itself, when you get free units, it's problematic. And some things I just don't like. For example, I think crossbows and longbows are going to be overpowered, especially crossbows, because now I go crossbows, I break buildings, I kill all units. If my opponent plays horsemen or something like this, I just get some spearmen that are essentially free. They're very, very cheap. If my opponent plays mangonels, then first of all I can just kite mangonels. Second, I can shoot the mangonels with my crossbows. So I just don't see why would you play anything. I mean, I don't see a composition that would be able to beat crossbows right now, and I don't see a situation when you wouldn't want to have crossbows. And also, one thing I would expect, but hopefully it's going to come soon, is balance changes, because now we have two strongest civilizations, Holy Roman Empire and Byzantines. They're just without any question very, very strong. They get a lot of units, they get great economies, and these changes, they do not harm these civilizations at all. Okay, maybe farms become a little bit weaker, but it's only 5% per upgrade, and often HRE doesn't even need to get these upgrades. Often it's just enough for them to use Aachen Chapel. So personally for me, I would expect more changes regarding balance. Okay, so what, in my opinion, are the most important changes right now? Assuming we get this patch, assuming the most, broken stuff like longbow range and longbow breaking buildings, let's assume that this all gets changed and the patch gets delivered. First of all, in my opinion, I would want to see a reconnect feature, because we already are getting the pause button, and many games are ruined because someone reconnected, maybe their internet dropped, maybe, the game closed. It will be really nice to have a reconnect feature if it's possible. Second, Byzantine HRE nerf, yeah, I already talked about it, everybody knows it, at the top level at least, and no one really, disagrees with it. Byzantines and HRE are too oppressive. Also, English Imperial and Network of Castles nerf. Again, I'm not sure what exactly needs to be done, but if you're playing English, if you survive to Imperial, then you're probably the strongest civilization in the game and also easiest to play. It's not even close, you get infinite gold, and with Network of Castles, all your units are 30%, about 30% more efficient. It's absolutely insane, right? And maybe Network of Castles needs to be reworked in some way, maybe it doesn't need to increase attack speed, or maybe it needs to increase it by a lower value, or maybe it only needs to be accessible around your main town center, I don't know. But also, it might be that English just needs to get nerfed, you know, regarding farms or regarding Wingard units. For example, Wingard Rangers, very strong, especially after the new upgrade for archers. So this is a big problem. Also, crossbows nerf, because now crossbows can be played in most situations. You just go for crossbows if you want to win fights. I don't think it leads to very good gameplay. When you just sit, for example, with English in your base and go crossbows, and you know that you will kill anything that comes. Now you will even be able to kill, yeah, you will be able to kill mangonels and stuff like this, and maybe bombards. Probably crossbows are going to need a nerf in some way. Maybe less damage, maybe less attack speed. Okay, also I would suggest making civilization bonuses less extreme, and it will solve the problem with HRE and Byzantines, because, for example, look at how Malians are played, right, or Ottomans. Malians and Ottomans, they get the very strong bonuses, which are cow boom and pit mines and military schools, and now it's not really possible to ignore these bonuses, because if you ignore these bonuses, you are not playing in an optimal way, especially as Malians. Or let's think about how maybe English are played, right? There is no way you're going to play English and go for second gear pack and go for your boar. No, at best you'll just go for a first gear pack. Maybe in some wild case you will go for boar if it's really close to you, but there is no world in which you go to berries and just looking for berry bushes as English, right? Because you have your amazing farms. So maybe these unique civilization bonuses need to be a little bit adjusted to not be as extreme, right? So I personally think it could diversify the game and make it more interesting. And maybe if we get more bonuses like unique units, like French Arbalétrier or Mongol Mangodai, if you make civilizations stand out in this way, maybe it could be better. And also one thing I got from Age of Mythology is Villager AutoQ. I was skeptical about it, but I tried it out and it feels really great. I think it could be another great quality of life change. We already have it on Xbox, I think, or on console, and it's not difficult to implement. It will just take away mechanical actions of clicking every 20 seconds on your town center, and especially if you play HRE for when you go swipe, yeah, often your swipe just goes idle because you forget to click your villagers. I think this is a very good feature that could be added, and it's pretty easy to implement. Alright, so it turned out to be quite a long video about this patch, about changes. I hope you liked it. I will check out this patch. I probably will not play it on public update preview. Most likely I will wait until it's released, until they fix some of the stuff like broken flaming arrows. But anyway, I'm really glad again that the developers are listening to feedback and trying to do a lot of good changes. I think especially this pause button is, yeah, of course it's long overdue, but it's great that now we have it. Alright, so thanks for watching, hopefully see you soon.